find out that they're not. And they lose a certain amount of trust in the adults around them. Anyway, that's been my experience. But I don't think there needs to be a dichotomy. I think all sides of the human being need to be addressed and fulfilled. So I don't think it needs to be.
So what does that look like if you have someone who's super kinesthetic and really imaginative and lives in that space and that's what engages them, and they'll do their work that way, but not if it's presented in, this other way. Like, so how do you've got Howard Gardner and multiple intelligence.
Right, yeah.
So what does it look like to accommodate that?
To accommodate that child, well, at age 3?
No, I'm talking about the elementary.
Yeah, well, so I'm saying, see, by elementary, we're already talking about capturing their imagination and using all kinds of stories, including fables and folk tales and all of that stuff. So that's all in there.
Okay.
Montessori Montessori from 6 to 12, as I said, developmentally it's a different time. So things are different. I think some people take the Montessori concepts for the 3 to 6 and think you can just lift that up and put it on the 6 to 12-year-old, and you can't, because it's a totally different beast. And you really have to know where that person, that individual is developmentally, and work with that kind of a mind. The abstracting, reasoning, imagining, creative energy of the child at that age.
So the Montessori child never thinks that fable is really true. It's a fable. Like, they understand it.
Yeah.
The difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're working with a 3 to 6, again, you've got mixed age group there, right? So the 2-year-olds are very literal. And the kids that are kindergarten age, moving, they get jokes. They start to tell jokes. They aren't very good jokes. But you can tell that, you can see all of these changes happening. So depending on the child and depending on the age, you have to be there, again, to support. And Montessori also says, any help given past its time is a hindrance. So you need to be wary. You need to know that those kids are changing every day, especially the little ones, because they do. And you aren't changing quite as fast, or you don't notice it anyway. And so you always need to be wary that you can be supporting that new part of them that's coming by, again, withdrawing. And that's the trick. And that's something that a lot of times people don't like. They think they don't like about Montessori schools because they feel like the teachers aren't in there enough. But we try to be we're in there in a sort of an underground way, trying to support what needs to be supported and step back as soon as possible so that person can take off and do it on their own. Because that's how you get intrinsically motivated. That's when you say, I can do it. I did it. And again, that's what we're looking for, is for the child to not say, oh, they taught me, but for the child to be able to say, I learned it myself. Because then they own that. Any more questions?
It seems tricky to, I come from a public school background, and we're here and we're thrilled about it and all that, but I struggle with some of the reading and literacy stuff. It seems like, how do you make sure these children, or your students, all 30 of them, are learning all the different strategies for reading or decoding or ABC order and whatever? I mean, how, it seems, how do you do that without reading groups? Or, I have a different perspective, but
sure.
It's just like, it's a daunting task in a regular classroom where you do small groups or maybe ability group or whatever. But how do you do that when you have 30, to make sure that all these little things are...
Right. Well, again, one of the huge challenges that you are encountering in this kind of a setting is that kids are coming into this setting who didn't have the Montessori from 3 to 6. See, by the time a child is 6 and is going into the elementary classroom, if they come from a traditional Montessori school, pretty much like they're most of them reading. And they're, you know, already well on their way. Whereas here, there's going to be lots of challenging strategies that they may do some reading groups, who knows? I mean, the teachers are very resourceful and very flexible. And they're there to serve those children. So they're going to be doing what they need to do to make it happen. But you're working with each child individually. And so you know where the stumbling blocks are for a particular child. I mean, some children really can read, only they don't know it. And if they bump into words that have what we call phonogram sounds, but they're, you know, sounds that blends and stuff like that, they'll, you know, get knocked for a loop. So they might have that child take a book and do a word search and just look for all the words that have EA in them, just to get them more comfortable with what's going on. There are strategies. I mean, there really is a curriculum.
There's like
Yeah, they're really and if you're interested, I mean, I can turn you on to how to get a hold of it so you can actually look through it. But it's just that the curriculum, everything in every subject area has a direct aim and an indirect aim, and it directly prepares the child for the next material in that set of materials, and they all are going towards, you know, specific goals. And so it's actually kind of amazing. It's really well thought out, and it works really, really well. But I'd be glad to, you know, there are resources to let you know more about that.
Can you talk a little bit about how parents can really support their kids in a Montessori setting, maybe looking at different ages and so on, just will need to be changing as the kids are growing?
Sure. With the little ones, the watchword of the child that age is help me do it myself. And they really, really need you to take the time it takes to show them how, and just help with the part that they can't do and let them do the rest. And to be aware that they're growing and changing all the time, and maybe they couldn't reach the door knob today, but they will tomorrow. And to be there for that, to let them be as much involved as possible in the practical life of the home, to make the home as much of an environment for them as possible, so that they have step stools to get to things, so that their stuff is down low, so that they have access to it. I mean, basically, you want to make your home into an environment that is user-friendly to the 3 to 6 year old. So that means the right size, for things to hold, and just everything. You know, look at the room, you know, get down on your knees and walk around, and you'll get the kid's perspective, and that really helps you to examine how you do things in your own. When it comes to language, you read to them all the time. You sing to them, you tell them stories, you do finger plays. But you follow that child, you follow their interest. When they say, what's that? You don't say, get that bug out of here. You say, oh my goodness, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 6 legs, it must be some kind of an insect. Let's get the book out and see what it is. So, you know, that's little guys. For your 6 to 9, they need to read.